Hi, that was great. Good job. So I'm kind of a Twitter nerd, and so I like when I do these types of things. If you can give me feedback, my Twitter handle's up on the screen, so if you want to tweet, please stop talking, you're done already, and so that I can come back and it's kind of a way for me to check and see how well I did or didn't do with you. So my name is Chris Crouch, as the screen says there, and I'm a poor kid from Kentucky. Grew up in Boone County, which if you're from Kentucky, really isn't Kentucky, it's Cincinnati. But I grew up in a town that has one flashing yellow light, grew up on a tobacco dairy farm, and all I ever wanted to do was be a teacher. And I never really thought that you guys would be listening to me. I always thought I'd be listening to you. So this is kind of a powerful, like, aha, kind of like out-of-body experience moment. So bear with me a little bit. So I worked in Boone County schools in Northern Kentucky, and I was on the way out here. I don't get to fly very often either, and because I'm from Kentucky. And, sorry, Kentucky. My team's already choking. So I'm on the airplane flying out here, and I'm watching a TED Talk by a Seattlean named Leslie Hazelton. She's a biographer. And the name of the TED Talk was Doubt is Essential to Faith. And so I'm sitting there watching this. And she talks about how fundamentalists don't question. Fanatics don't worry. Faith takes doubt. Faith takes questions. Faith takes despair. I have faith in the Common Core. I think that it's the most powerful tool that we've ever given educators. But that doesn't mean I don't question it. That doesn't mean I don't worry about it. And that doesn't mean I don't have despair about what it could or could not look like in the classroom. So this translates to an experience I had. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to get a couple seconds to think. All right. Define, explain. Write it down on your pad of paper. Define, explain. Pop quiz today, sorry. I'm not a very good teacher. Define, explain. Check with your partner, someone next to you. See if you have anything that resembles a similar definition.
What was your
So I'm a student of rhetoric as well. And being a student of rhetoric, diction is really important. Word choice. Someone told me yesterday that out of the 271 words in the Gettysburg Address, we appears 10 times. So Abe didn't choose that word on accident. Okay? That the word choice, the meaning behind that diction was to unify the nation, right? Gettysburg, we have to come together. So we was a very important little bitty word, but it was really important. I went through and counted how many times the word explain appears in the Common Core literacy standards. It appears 43 times. That makes it sound like it's kind of important. I'm just guessing. And so I'm wondering that did your definitions match? Maybe this room is a pretty smart room, so we might have gotten it right. But I was with a group of students, and we were working through an LDC question and the task. So one of the things that we do in my classroom is I give them the task right up front. We deconstruct the task, and I ask them, what knowledge and skills do you need in order to accomplish this task in 10 days or whatever? And so they're really good at listing all of the content, but the other side, what they have to do, is a little skimpy. And so they always like to write down, analyze, and explain, because those are words in the question. And so I asked them, I said, so what does it look like when you explain? I get blank looks. These are 11th graders, juniors, kids getting ready to go into the workforce, to college. Explain must be a college and career ready skill because it's in the Common Core 43 times. They could not even begin to give it back to me. I got all kinds of crazy things. Well, it means to describe. Not exactly. It means to elaborate. Not so much. It means to give you more detail. My favorite one is You know, man, it means to explain. So, but here's the problem. I couldn't scaffold it for those kids to get them to a place to where they could analyze, explain, and be 16 years old. I didn't know how to back that up for them to get them to a place to where they could do it and should have been doing it all along. So, what do teachers do when we don't know what we're doing? We run out into the hall, we throw our hands up in the air, and we say, help, someone tell me how to teach, explain. Crickets. Then I got lots of things. Well, in fact, I went to a science teacher because, right, science teachers talk about explanations a lot. So how do you teach kids to explain in your science classroom? And she looks at me and she says, what do you mean? We don't teach them how to explain. They just can do that intuitively. And so that kind of knocked me backwards. Intuitively, if it was an intuitive skill, then it wouldn't be in the Common Core standards because we wouldn't have to teach it because they could already do it and why are we there? So it has to be something that we can build towards. And so I really started to try to deconstruct this and think back, how do we get kids to explain? So I began this path of questioning the Common Core. Like, how do we get to a place that we can back this up? And I don't know if I'm there yet. I think I'm getting closer. I keep working on it, and I keep striving towards it. And here's the thing, it's different in every place. So when we talk about explain and we talk about it in a science class or in a social studies classroom or an ELA classroom, a math classroom, that's not the same skill. That was like a tsunami washing over me. To think about a scientist in the next generation science standards has a cross-cutting concept called cause and effect. And then in the social studies standards arts where it talks about continuity over time and change, and in the ELA classroom where we want kids to create arguments, how does that all fit in? And we're all using the same language, and I know if this room is confused and we couldn't decide on what explain means, and if I know every teacher that I typically talk to can't figure out what explain means, I'm pretty darn sure our kids don't know what explain means. And so we have to get this right. That's my big kind of soapbox moment, is that we have to figure out what we do in the classroom. How do we get this right for kids? Because this is the most pivotal moment, I think, at least in my career, of trying to get this work right. And one way I think we can get the work right is by establishing hybrid roles. I'm a big hybrid roles guy. I don't know if you've heard that phrase yet. It's not too new, but it's kind of new in education. Hybrid roles allow educators, teachers, to stay plugged into the classroom. So we work with kids directly every day. We have to live in that world if we want to be educators. We can never leave that place. But we also carve out time during the day to work on other work. We work on figuring out what it means to explain. We work on figuring out what MDC really looks like. We work on what collaboration really looks like and facilitation. So that's a shift, because I typically, when I talk to principals and district leaders about this, they're like, there is no money for that, right? I've got 120 kids that need a teacher all day. I can't be taking a teacher out of the classroom just to talk to someone else and think about work. Okay, but what other profession do we not do that? Right? Engineers get to work with one another to think about big ideas. Teachers never get really that time to think about big ideas. We're always really locked in, laser beam focused on the 120 kids I see all day shopping in high school. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this is kind of crazy. You're probably tweeting me some random stuff right now. But we have hybrid roles already in schools, but they're not about teaching and learning. Athletic directors and coaches. So that tells a lot to our kids about what we value in our systems and in our culture, is that we can't carve out time for educators and teachers to work on important stuff, but sports is so important that we're going to make sure the athletic director can run on the sports team all day. So it's a really, it's an untold message, but kids see the message. The other thing that I really harp on about hybrid roles is how can we ask kids to be innovative, to reimagine the world that doesn't exist yet, if we can't redesign ourselves? If we cannot model innovation for our kids, how can they go out and do that? And so it seems baffling to me that we have not really made that connection for them. That we don't, we model everything else. We model reading strategies, we model how math practices, but we don't model innovation by the way we practice what we do every day. So I'm still trying to figure out explain. If you've got some suggestions, please shoot them toward me. And I'm still working on the work, and I would love to hear any of your comments, any of your feedback on how to help all of us get to a place that where we can all talk about it in a meaningful way. Thank you.